Imagine this: you're deep underground, surrounded by nothing but darkness and silence. The air feels heavy, and with every breath, you begin to realize how much you need something as simple as oxygen. The walls of the cave press in from all sides, and the narrow passageways seem to stretch forever. Your mind starts to race every minute that passes. Every breath you take feels more desperate. But what if in that moment, the oxygen begins to fade and the cave's silent grip tightens around you? This is the story of Bob Thomas, an experienced cave diver who, in November of 2017, went diving into the Tilly Foster Cave in New York. What was meant to be just another dive in his extensive career would become a tragedy that would haunt the world of cave diving for years to come. Bob Thomas was no novice. He had explored some of the most challenging underwater caves across the globe. He was skilled, trained, and prepared for the worst. But what happened that day was beyond anything he could have anticipated. The Tilly Foster Cave, located just outside of Brewster, New York, is a site known for its narrow passages and challenging underwater labyrinths. To many divers, it was a challenge, a place where you could test your skills and experience nature's power up close. But to Bob, it was just another dive. He had done this 1,000 times before, with the same sense of calm and confidence. He was well aware of the risks, but to him, the thrill and the peace of being beneath the surface outweighed everything else. On that fateful November day, Bob entered the cave with his equipment, ready for another dive. Little did he know that as he descended into the depths, the fate awaiting him would be unlike any other challenge he had faced before. As he swam deeper into the cave, he was surrounded by the sound of water rushing past, the soft hum of his breathing, and the faint, comforting gurgles of the water against the cave walls. But as the minutes passed, the usual sense of control began to fade. Something was wrong, something was changing, but Bob didn't know what. He was alone in the cave, isolated from the outside world, and that's when things took a turn for the worse. By the time Bob's team realized he hadn't resurfaced, it was already too late. Hours had passed since his scheduled return, and there was no sign of him. The clock was ticking, and the situation was growing dire. Bob's diving buddies knew something was wrong, but no one could have predicted how quickly things would escalate. They quickly initiated a search and rescue operation, but they knew the risks. The Tilly Foster Cave was treacherous, and finding a diver who had gone missing in its narrow passages was no easy task. Every second counted, and yet, as the minutes turned to hours, there was no sign of Bob. Back on the surface, the tension mounted. His team was growing anxious, and search efforts were ramping up. The divers had no choice but to move deeper into the cave, following Bob's last known route. But the further they went, the more uncertain the situation became. The search crews fought against time, battling the dark, cramped passages and the rising fear that the mission might end in tragedy. They knew the dangers. They knew the caves could be unforgiving, but no one could prepare for the devastating possibility that Bob might not be found alive. The rescue operation continued through the night, the stakes rising with each passing hour. But then a clue emerged that would lead the rescuers deeper into the cave than they had ever gone before. It was Bob's equipment, his oxygen tank, still intact and floating within one of the cave's submerged tunnels. It wasn't unusual to find equipment along the way, but the discovery of his tank, untouched and still functioning, sent a chill down the spines of the rescue team. Why had Bob left his equipment behind? Had he managed to escape, or had something far worse happened to him? The uncertainty of the situation was overwhelming. As the search continued, the team pushed forward, their hearts heavy with the fear that they were too late. They moved deeper into the cave's winding corridors. Every corner a new possibility. Each step was a gamble. And the deeper they went, the more they realized just how dangerous and unpredictable these caves could be. The water was murky, the air growing thin, and the tunnels growing tighter. What had started as a routine search was quickly becoming a race against time, and the odds were stacking up against them. Hours later, the team reached a small submerged chamber deep within the cave. It was a place that no one had expected to find. The chamber was hidden away, barely accessible, and yet it seemed like it might hold the answers they had been searching for. With bated breath, they searched the area, their movements slow and deliberate, and then they found it. Bob Thomas was there, his body motionless, trapped in the dark, silent world of the cave he had once mastered. The discovery was heart-wrenching. Bob had not made it. His body was found at the farthest point of the cave, far beyond where anyone had dared to venture. The exact cause of his death remained a mystery for weeks. What had happened in the final moments? Did something go wrong with his equipment? Was there a sudden shift in the cave that trapped him? Or had he simply run out of oxygen, unable to make it back to the surface in time? The tragedy of Bob Thomas' death in the Tilly Foster Cave left a deep scar on the diving community. How could an experienced diver, one with so much knowledge and skill, fall victim to such a disaster? Investigations into the incident were launched, and experts pored over the details, looking for answers. They examined the cave's geography, Bob's equipment, and his dive plan. What they uncovered was not so much a single mistake, but rather a series of factors that led to an unfortunate, fatal combination of circumstances. The narrow tunnels of the Tilly Foster Cave, the unpredictable flow of the water, and the complex terrain all contributed to the challenges Bob faced. But it wasn't just the cave that was to blame. It was the limits of human endurance, the risks that come with pushing your body to its maximum, and the sheer unpredictability of the unknown. For divers like Bob, these were the risks they accepted, but they never truly believed that it could end this way. In the aftermath of the tragedy, the diving community was shaken to its core. Bob Thomas was remembered as a man who loved the thrill of the dive, who had dedicated his life to exploring the world's most dangerous and beautiful underwater spaces. His loss was felt by all who knew him, and it served as a stark reminder of the dangers that lurk beneath the surface. Cave diving is a dangerous pursuit, one that requires skill, precision, and respect for the elements. Bob's story is a tragic one, but it is also a cautionary tale, a reminder of the risks we take when we venture into the unknown. The lessons learned from Bob's tragic death have led to changes in safety protocols for cave divers. There are now stricter guidelines on equipment checks, dive planning, and emergency response procedures. The tragedy of Tilly Foster Cave is a story that will be remembered for generations to come, not only for the loss of an experienced diver, but also for the valuable lessons it taught the diving community. Bob Thomas's story is a reminder that no matter how experienced we are, nature has the final say. It serves as a warning to all who enter the depths, urging them to respect the forces they are up against. The tragedy of Tilly Foster Cave will never be forgotten, and it will continue to shape the future of cave diving safety. As we reflect on Bob's life and legacy, we are reminded of the dangers that exist in the world, both above and below the surface, but we are also reminded of the courage it takes to face those dangers head-on. Bob's passion for exploration, his love for the underwater world, and his unwavering dedication to his craft will live on in the hearts of all those who knew him. His story, though tragic, is one of bravery, skill, and a reminder that we are all just visitors in the vast, unforgiving world that lies beneath our feet. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing content.